Meantime, one of the most famous short sellers in the world has taken aim squarely at the most famous EV company. Michael Burry, the star investor portrayed by Christian Bale in that movie, The Big Short, has made a very big move against Tesla, but he isn't the only one who just coughed up his secret first quarter trades. Billionaire Warren Buffett and Cathie Wood, the hot hand at ARK Invest, revealing a flurry of news-making trades. But first, let's get to Burry's, more than a $530 million bet against Tesla. His 13F filing with the SEC shows long puts against more than 800,000 shares of the EV giant. Tesla shares bucking the bearish bet at the moment, moving higher by 0.75%. But let's flip it over to the Oracle of Omaha, whose Berkshire Hathaway 13F filing reveals a brand new stake, a $943 million stake in insurance broker Aon. At the same time, Berkshire dumped its stake in Chevron by 51%, exited nearly all of his shares in Wells Fargo, which, by the way, he started adding to in 1989, so that's a big deal. Team Buffett also sliced holdings in U.S. Bancorp, Merck, Bristol-Myers Squibb, General Motors, AbbVie, SiriusXM, StoneCo, Axalta Coating, and Liberty Global. The company exited its stakes in Synchrony Financial and Suncor Energy entirely, but beyond Aon as that buy, Buffett added to his positions in Verizon, Restoration Hardware, Marsh McLennan, and Kroger. And finally, Cathie Wood's ARK Invest shed nearly all of its $23 billion stake in Apple, figuring, you know what, maybe the money could be put to better use there. So, where? She added to her Twitter, Palantir, DraftKings, and Coinbase holdings. Are these right moves? What do you think? To our floor show traders, Scott Bauer and Tom Hayes, for, guys, what I'm calling Second Guessing Tuesday. Scott, who made the best trades during the first quarter and why? What do you think?
Yeah, this is the ultimate Monday morning quarterback here. A couple things. I think with Buffett's 13Fs, they're getting so murky now because things are happening so quickly. He's not, keeping on to his holdings as quickly. I do really like what he did, though. He took some massive profits off the table in the energy names, some of the drug makers, and especially the financials. I really like what he did there. In terms of Cathie Wood, to me, it's actually, I don't want to say disappointing, Liz, but it looks to me like she's almost just trying to double up and maybe average into some of these long positions that she's taken a beating on over the last quarter or so, or over the last 6 months. The one I really do like that she did go into, though, is Twitter. And then finally, going to the Michael Burry, the Tesla short here. People need to understand that he didn't just short the stock, which he did actually in December come out and put a sell rating on there. But he didn't just short the stock. He bought put options. He bought 8,000 put options, which if they all went to zero, if the stock went to zero, that's the $530 million that we're talking about. The thing we don't know the expiration or the strikes that he actually bought. Those were not released, at least that I saw yet. So we don't really know the true value of what he put up there. That being said, he's absolutely shorted. But in sum, I like Cathie Wood's Twitter purchase, and I think what Buffett is doing right now, especially since he bought back, $27 billion worth of Berkshire Hathaway, at the end of last year, I think he's doing a phenomenal job.
Sure. Well, yeah, and we keep saying he. Don't forget Todd and Ted, the two guys he's put in charge of the stock portfolio. Folks, that's why Buffett used to say, I buy a stock and I never sell it. Well, guess what? He has started to sell, and I would bring up General Motors. He upped his stake in the third quarter of 2020, and since then it's been they. It's jumped about 150% year over year. He trimmed some of that. So Tom Hayes, he is, through Todd and Ted, starting to act like a more basic investor who takes profits. Nothing wrong with that. But tell me who you think made the best trade or trades here of these three.
Yeah, well, I think to your point, it's certainly better commentary on Todd and Ted than it is on Warren, because you remember from the annual meeting, he said he'd have no problem only owning the entire company of Chevron, as we're going to need a lot more fossil fuel to get us through the renewable transition. So this was a shocker, and it's certainly a Todd and Ted decision. I think the best trade of Q1 is actually someone else that we all know, George Soros. Archegos' loss was George Soros' family office gain. They bought all the Chinese stocks that Bill Wang had to liquidate, the forced liquidation of the bankruptcy of the family office, and the prime brokers had to sell. He went in there. These stocks were cut in half due to forced liquidation. He bought Baidu. He bought VIP shops. He bought Tencent Music, and he bought the A-shares ETF, along with Discovery, by the way, which had the merger yesterday. And I think that's going to prove to be the trade of the year. You're seeing even today in a weak tape, the Chinese stocks are up. And I like that trade quite a bit. So I don't think the Buffett 13F tells us a lot about what Warren is thinking. I think it tells us about Todd and Ted. And as far as Michael Burry, to Scott's point, the notional value is 500 million, but what he paid, what he has at risk, maybe a few million, maybe a few tens of millions. But I wouldn't bet against Elon Musk long term, the Thomas Edison of our day. Short term, the trade works. We'll find out if he took profits or not.
Fascinating stuff. And yes, it is a good point. And I like the outlier with George Soros and that investment because he's now acting like Buffett. Buffett says you want to rush in when everybody's selling and panicked, and you want to leave when everybody's excited. So, Scott, Tom, good stuff. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks for having us.
Good to see you guys.